So my son and I went over there, and unfortunately, when we got there, it was almost before you even got to the front door, you could smell marijuana. And that was so discouraging. We just sunk $200,000 into this renovation, and our very first guests were potheads. And this is a no smoking property. It's clearly stated everywhere. We had a sign at the front door. We had a sign at the back patio where everybody would lounge naturally, which would be a great place to smoke. We had one inside the house somewhere. I don't remember where exactly. And it's clearly listed on the listings. Clearly stated there, this is a no smoking property, period. And so our very first guests after a $200,000 renovation were potheads. And so that was incredibly disappointing, a little frustrating. But we walked up there, knocked on the door, sure enough, opened that door, and that smell just overwhelmed us. And I told my son, I'm like, so that you know, this is what marijuana smells like. It was so bad. To make matters worse, when I was there, not only did it smell like marijuana, but then when I walked into the garage to go get a tool, there was a smoke pit that they had created inside of the garage. They literally had 4 or 5 chairs circled around. They had propped open a window, and basically were just smoking in my garage. So I think it was raining when they first moved in. So they were literally smoking in my newly painted, freshly drywalled, new drywall garage with the garage door closed. And they were just smoking in there. I mean, I have security cameras on the exterior of the house, so they knew where not to smoke. This was just disappointing and frustrating on just a whole new level. I had not experienced this yet as an Airbnb operator or a short-term rental operator. So this was incredibly frustrating for me. And so here I am experiencing this for the first time, and I'm just like, man. Then what happened? The government shut down. Ta-da! Government shut down. So remember I told you that they had a government contract. I think they're a roofing company. They did construction in general, but I think they're doing a roofing contract or something for the base. So the government's not getting paid. The government has no money, and the government isn't paying people. Myself included, by the way. Remember, Federal Air Traffic Controller? I wasn't getting paid from the government. And now my guests here at my $4,500 a month mortgage are not getting paid. So in November, there it is. We made roughly $3,200 for the month of November. So we lost money, right? And then the mortgage there is $4,500. And we ended up not covering the mortgage. You know all the big names in real estate. You know what they're doing now, but you don't know how they got there. Now I'll introduce you to the no names, just like you and me. I'll walk you through real deals with real financing, real strategies, in real time. This is real life real estate. All right, beautiful people, here we are. First off, let me say thank you. I just want to start out by saying thank you. Today is December 2nd. The last recording I made was September 9th. Man, editing is atrocious. I'm going to try and do this episode without editing it. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. I may still have to edit it, but I'm really hoping not to have to. That said, I want to say thank you because yesterday, December 1st, I got an alert from Apple Podcasts, I think it was, or Spotify, one of those two. And they let me know that I have officially had 100 downloads and 100 people listening to my episodes. So thank you. That's all of you that have made that possible. It's been about 1.5 years since I started recording. So 100 listens is not much. But that said, I'm not like a real popular person. I'm not the social guy. I'm not the one who's out there trying to make friends and get well known and liked and all that kind of stuff. I've got a family. That's my priority. God and my family are my priority. I've got many jobs. I wear many hats. I'm not in this for friends and fame. I'm in this to support my family, to teach my children how to build businesses because it's what I'm enjoying. And I think that's just how God made me. But really excited. So thank you all for supporting me in this. Honestly, having received that blip that came through my phone and said that I got 100 downloads now, that has really propelled me to do this episode. I've had this episode in the making, ready. I was ready to send this or to record this about a month ago, but honestly, it's just the amount of time that it takes away from my family and all the other things I enjoy doing. I'm not getting anything for this. So there's not a whole lot of incentive other than to just help you guys and see if this helps anybody and just to let you know it's possible. And this is how we're doing it. That said, we got a lot of interesting things that have taken place in the last 1.5 months, almost 2 months now. So September 9th was the last episode I recorded. And let's see if I can pull up real quick what the name of that episode was. That was episode 16. So this is episode 17 for me. That episode 16, September 9th, was recorded. It was called $181,000 cash back in 10 weeks, BRRRR in action. And that was when we had just completed the BRRRR on the White House. Took us, let's see, I think we bought it June 12th, and I think we completed the cash out refinance, completed the BRRRR September 4th. So what's that? Just under September, what's that? June, July, August, September. So almost 3 months, 2.5 months. We did incur some unforeseeable delays during the renovation due to the extensive flooring repair. The plywood subfloor had been damaged by moisture. A lot of it was the integrity, the strength of the boards were compromised. So we just ripped them all out and put in all new. And that was an unforeseen expense, but we took care of it because it was the right thing to do. So that's where we left off September 9th. Also, we had it listed on Airbnb, I think it was, or on the rental platforms as of August 25th. Still had no bookings. That is no longer the case. So I'm going to catch you up on that. So again, thank you all for listening. And it's encouraging. It's feedback for me that people are actually listening to stuff. And thank you for those of you that are listening in Germany, Azerbaijan. I'm sure I butchered that. I apologize. Canada, Russia, of all places. And I think the statistics were showing that about almost 88% of my listeners are from the States. So thank you. But it was surprising to hear that there was a couple people in Canada, Germany, Russia, and Azerbaijan, something like that. Correct me. Anyway, all that said, thank you. So here we are. So let's pick up where we left off. September 9th, when I recorded, we still had no bookings. And that was a little intimidating, dare I say scary, because we're carrying a $4,500 mortgage. And I broke down the math on that. Basically, we're looking at, I think by the end of the year, it was going to cost us with principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and utilities to hold that property for 3 months with no income was going to cost us somewhere around probably around $13,500 to $15,000. And I said that it would be worth it to go through that law because the upside was going to be, worst case scenario, I think was going to be like a $45,000 write-off for the year. I think something like that. I just listened to the episode last night, just kind of refresh myself before I recorded this. But on the positive would be not only the write-offs, but also some income and hopefully offsetting the expenses, at least, if not making some money. So here's where we are with that. So that was September 9th. Let's go to VRBO. Our VRBO account, if we go to September 19th, we actually got our first listing. So 10 more days after that recording, we finally got our first reservation. We have this reservation. Let's see, they booked on the 19th. They stayed for the end of the month. And that was a really cool reservation because what happened is this company recently signed a 5-year contract with Kings Bay. And so that's a military installation. And that 5-year contract was basically doing construction work for them. That was fantastic news because they stayed with us. So their party had 12 people. We sleep 14. And they were looking for something kind of close to base. They can house their entire team. So our property was perfect for them. They booked it for, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They booked it for 11 nights. And that was great because it looks like our estimated payout for that was almost $2,300 for those 11 nights. Not great, not terrible. Less than, what was that, maybe $220, $225 a night, something like that. But so that wasn't bad. But for the promise, again, that was for, what is that, 11 nights. For the promise, or the potential promise of having them as long-term tenants, that was huge. That's what was really exciting about this. And so after the first week, they let us know basically that they were really interested in staying for the full 5, possibly 5 years and signing like maybe 1-year contracts kind of deal. So that was really exciting because for us, that would have put us somewhere close to about $7,500 a month or $8,000 a month in income without all the platform fees and everything. So that would have been really great cash flow for us. What ended happening, actually, sadly, is that about 4 days into their stay, maybe 5 days into their stay, one of the guests let me know that the front door electronic lock was failing. And so if you're not familiar with those, we use Schlag. They work well 90% of the time, really well, really happy with their product. And however, because I manage these properties myself, I had to go over there myself to do this repair. The reason being is because each lock is registered to an account. The account is registered to your phone. And so in order to have that access, you have to register the lock with the app, which is on my phone. And so unless I give my phone to somebody to go over there and register it, I had to go over there myself. So that's one inconvenience about this. The good news is if you have like a property management company or whatever, and they do this for you, then you can probably just log on to the app And then if you wanted to look at it for whatever reason to see the activity on the doors. But other than that, there's no other way around it. You've got to do it yourself. So that's what I had to do. So my son and I went over there, and unfortunately, when we got there, it was almost before you even got to the front door. You could smell marijuana. And that was so discouraging. We just sunk $200,000 into this renovation. And our very first guests were potheads. And this is a no smoking property. It's clearly stated everywhere. We had a sign at the front door. We had a sign at the back patio where everybody would lounge naturally, which would be a great place to smoke. We had one inside the house somewhere. I don't remember where exactly. And it's clearly listed on the listings. Clearly stated there, this is a no smoking property, period. And so our very first guests after a $200,000 renovation were potheads. And so that was incredibly disappointing, a little frustrating. But we walked up there, knocked on the door, sure enough, opened that door, and that smell just overwhelmed us. And I told my son, I'm like, so that you know, this is what marijuana smells like. It was so bad. And the guests just shamelessly, it was funny because they didn't recognize us from Adam. They didn't know what we looked like or anything. So they just assumed that we were workers, which is great. No problem there. And so they just let us get to work. So we got to work, swapped out the lock real quick, no problem. But it was just kind of funny because later on, when I went to address them about it, I mentioned the smell, and the guest had the nerve to tell me that I was mistaken and that there was no smell. And again, I had addressed her as the property manager, owner, whatever, through the website, through the platform, Airbnb platform or VRBO platform. And again, she just thought that she didn't realize that I was the one that was there. So I had to let her know. I said, no, indeed, I know what I smelled. It was me and my son that were there. And so that caught her by surprise. And then we went into that whole conversation. So that's what we ended up talking about it. And she was actually very cordial and very cool about it in the sense that she admitted, she goes, oh, you know what? She goes, I just must not smell it. She's like, I'm used to it. So I must just not smell it. And she said, but nobody's smoking inside the house. Now you got to imagine there's 12 renters here, right? Essentially it's a team, a company that's leased out my property to their employees. So I reached out to the person that made the reservation. She had already stated that she is also an Airbnb owner operator. So I was happy about that because I knew that she would be understanding. And she was. And so immediately when I told her, she was incredibly disappointed. Turns out that I think she's like grandma or she's an aunt. So she reached out and she told me, she goes, I am going to basically like wring these people's necks and I'm going to hold money from their pay. And I was really happy about her response because it showed me that she was respectful, she was considerate, she cared, she understood what I was going through, she empathized with me, she told me that she's had people smoke in her properties and she doesn't allow it and da-da-da. So she was very empathetic and active at first. What ended up happening is that she reached out to her niece, and her niece is the person I met at the property, and that went well. She immediately jumped into action. She reached out to me. She basically said, what can I do to make this right? And I said, look, I'm not a smoker. I don't know. I haven't had a deal with marijuana yet. So I just told her, look, Google's going to be your best confidant here because I've got nothing for you. I just want you to know that if this smell isn't gone by the time you guys check out, that I'm just going to have to charge you until it gets fixed. It's basically what it comes down to. I told her I would wipe down the walls. I would wipe down the furniture. Like that's what I would do. That's me. That's if I was in that situation, but I wouldn't be in that situation anyway. So I would do everything to correct it. What's really kind of messed up is that a couple more times throughout their reservation, I have an Ecobee thermostat there, the electronic Wi-Fi thermostat. And it actually will tell you when there is a severe air degradation. Air quality has been severely degraded. And that's the message I got several times. And I was just like, oh my goodness. I'm like, hopefully they just burnt toast. Trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's the thing is like the burden of proof is on you as the landlord, right? So to go and to make accusations, you got to be able to back it up. So it's always maybe just wise to be prudent when you're making these accusations. So I couldn't prove that they had been smoking inside the house. She told me they had not. The thermostat didn't agree. And the house obviously smelled like marijuana, and she wasn't there 24/7. I'm pretty sure they probably did shift work or something, whatever. At any time, she could easily not be there. And the thing is, it's a big house. It's a single-story, 2,700 square foot. So it's like an east wing, west wing kind of thing. You could be on the east wing and not have a clue of what's going on the west wing. There's a large dining area, living room, kitchen that's in between the east side of the house and the west side of the house. You could be completely in the game room, which there's 6 beds in there, as well as a TV, couch, and air hockey table, and a large bathroom. and walk-in closet. It's like a whole separate house. It's like 1,000 square feet over there. So you could easily be on one side of the house and not have a clue what's going on the other. And that's what she claimed. To make matters worse, when I was there, not only did it smell like marijuana, but then when I walked into the garage to go get a tool, there was a smoke pit that they had created inside of the garage. They literally had like 4 or 5 chairs circled around. They had propped open a window, and basically were just smoking in my garage. So I think it was raining when they first moved in. So they were literally smoking in my newly painted, freshly drywalled, new drywall garage with the garage door closed. And they were just smoking in there. I mean, I have security cameras on the exterior of the house, so they knew where not to smoke. This was just disappointing and frustrating on just a whole new level. I had not experienced this yet as an Airbnb operator or a short-term rental operator or a medium-term rental operator. So this was incredibly frustrating for me. And so here I am experiencing this for the first time, and I'm just like, man, what are the appropriate channels to go through? How do you... So this is one huge disappointment I have with VRBO, the platform. They sell insurance, damage protection insurance to the renters. That is damage protection. There's nothing that it doesn't cover you if there's theft. And that was another issue because, for example, they lost one of the air hockey handles. There's other things that like they broke a glass or something like that, right? And that stuff happens. But one of the other things they did is that they were playing with there's an axe throwing game. So we provide certain games like beanbag toss, axe throwing, this paddle game, I don't know what it's called, and also like a golf range kind of a thing. I don't know. I don't golf. But basically it's like a big net and you can just swing balls into it and whatever. And we offer all these games, we provide all those games. Well, they decided to do the axe throwing game inside of the garage. So they literally could have just taken it right outside the garage and just playing like is intended. Instead, they did it inside of my newly refinished garage, newly drywalled, freshly painted, newly run electrical. I mean, this thing's beautiful. It's a big, oversized 2.5 car garage, 3 car garage, really. And so they decided to play in there. So they're throwing the axes, missing the board and hitting the walls, so damaging all the walls. And I'm just like, guys, I just spent over $10,000 to drywall and paint this garage. Not just the garage, but other parts of the house as well. But I'm like, I just spent a ton of money on this. It's incredible, the lack of care. I've just never experienced this yet. So for me, this was shocking. Also, the other properties that we manage on a short and medium term basis are, again, for long-term contractors, but they're 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments. And so we usually have like anywhere from 1 to 4 people living in those, staying in those. And it's usually like 1 or 2. And so we've never, again, just had these issues. This is an estate. It's a luxury estate. It's over 1.5 acres, 2,700 square feet, single story, beautiful, nice flat land. Everything's usable, nice, beautiful outdoor patio. Just, it's set up for vacation rental. And so that was kind of, again, going into it, we weren't sure what direction. Initially, my initial direction was always to try and build it out so that we could have contractors stay there, which is why I didn't want to do anything nice. But then my wife was leaning me towards, well, if you do this and you do that, it'd be nice for people if they want to come and rent for the weekend or something. But this isn't necessarily a vacation rental market. I guess there's a small season for it, touristy season, but most people want to go to the island, Amelia Island, and we're just off the island. So we're learning this is a little bit more of a niche. There's not such high demand. So we'll get into that as well. And yeah, let's just go back to that. So what ended up happening is that happened like day 5 into this 11-day reservation. And so there I am now trying with a difficult decision to make. I'm like, we just had this conversation about them possibly leasing this long term for 5 years. And that'd be $2,000 to $3,000 a month in cash flow. That would make me look like a genius. So maybe we don't kick them out. Maybe instead I bite the bullet. This is a business and we pursue it like that. Therefore, I just should accept the fact that they smoked in it. I've already told them, hey, no smoking, obviously. And now we just come to accept that this is part of doing business. They're going to smoke in it for the next 5 years. It is what it is. In a couple of years or whatever, I'll recuperate the money that I had left into the deal, which is about $60,000 to $80,000. And so I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'll accept it. 2 to 3 years, I'll have recuperated that amount, and we'll just call it the price of doing business. So that was the idea. I decided we'll just let it roll and we'll play it out. So what ended up happening is that after that first 11-day period, they wanted to extend their stay for another month. So we did that. So there they are again. And they ended up staying through October. Now during that time, while they were trying to make up their mind on their reservation, whether or not they wanted to stay for another month, because we had just had this blow up with marijuana, we did have another one night, like 2 night reservation, and it was for Halloween. That's what we're noticing is that with this property, as far as vacation rental, if that's the audience that we're going to be targeting, again, because this place isn't really like a high destination or travel destination, and because it's not a high touristy travel destination most of the year, any sort of vacation stuff, it's not going to be lengthy enough. So we've had to alter the prices and try and just kind of figure out what makes sense. If we're getting someone that's just going to stay 2 nights, because I said a minimum 2-night minimum, it costs $300 minimum to clean this place. My cleaners, if it's just a regular cleaning, are going to charge me $300. If there's any sort of extensive cleaning to this, then this place is going to cost somewhere like $1,200 to clean if it's a deep clean. A 2-night booking, if I'm booking it for $400 a night, that's just going to cover one. So these prices are including the cleaning, because what basically ended up happening is that with the cleaning in there, I noticed that we weren't getting like any bookings. So if I were to do $275 a night plus a $300 or $400 cleaning fee, we just weren't getting any bookings. So what I did is I took some of the suggestions, because VRBO, Airbnb, they try and give you tips like, hey, don't include a cleaning price. So then you just have to alter your nightly stay. So I did that, and that started to help. We were getting more bookings that way. But again, they were like 2-night bookings. October 31st, we had somebody basically staying the 31st and the 1st. But after all of this marijuana smell, I know these people were traveling here with a family. And so I just wanted to be fully transparent. And I reached out to them and I said, hey, look, I explained everything that went on. I said, the previous guests have been there for a month and a half. They smoked marijuana inside the house. I'm like, I just want you to know, because I know you're bringing kids in here, and I don't want you to be, the last thing I want is a bad review that says Sam's place smelled like marijuana. Oh, and I brought my kids there. I wouldn't want that for my family. So I told them, and they decided to cancel the reservation. No hard feelings. I completely understand. Then what happened? The government shut down. Ta-da! Government shut down. So remember I told you that they had a government contract. I think they're a roofing company. They did construction in general, but I think they're doing a roofing contract or something for the base. So the government's not getting paid. The government has no money, and the government isn't paying people. Myself included, by the way. Remember, Federal Air Traffic Controller? I wasn't getting paid from the government, and now my guests here at my $4,500 a month mortgage are not getting paid. So we didn't sign a lease. I was trying to get them to get on a lease, but they were wise. They told me, they said they get paid every 2 weeks. They don't feel comfortable signing a 1-year lease. And they were wise. Hey, kudos to them. Look at that. The government shut down. They would have been locked into a lease, et cetera, et cetera. So because the government shut down and they stopped getting paid at the end of September, they had already paid for October. So at that point, they didn't have any money. So they left. Thankfully, they did leave. They didn't squat or anything like that. But now I have no bookings for November. The first, 1, 2, 3 weeks of November? Nada. Let's see, the 3rd week in November, on the 21st, I got a 2-night booking, Friday night, Saturday night. Local family just wanted to come and party. That's what they did. And then they checked out, and then on the tail of them checking out, which was just last week, I had another booking. So let's see here, just to go back, September. We had the one booking. I said it was about $2,300. October, we had another $5,775-ish. Plus, we had those other 2 nights that did end up getting booked. I just booked them off platform and with that same group. So it was another probably like $500 or $600. I forget what I charged them. So that was September, October. All of October came out to about $5,775. And then they left at the end of October. November, like I said, the 21st, we had a 2-night booking. And that 2-night booking yielded $970, and it is including the cleaning. Yeah, so $970 for a weekend. So $670 after the cleaning. And then once they left, we had another family come in there, and they, from the 23rd to the 28th of November, and they paid just under $2,500. So in November, there it is. We made roughly $3,200 for the month of November. So we lost money, right? And then the mortgage there is $4,500. And we ended up not covering the mortgage, and then we also have to pay for utilities. That's how it goes sometimes, and those are part of the swings that come with operating your own small business. Thankfully, both of those parties left the place in good shape, so we didn't have anything additional there to have to pay for. December, here we go. Coming into December, we have 1, 2, 3 bookings, and again, they're all short bookings. So December 5th, checking in the 5th, checking out the 7th, December 12th, departing on the 14th, checking in again on the 25th, checking out on the 27th. And let's see, the first booking is $1,018. That is including the cleaning fee. So it's not 1,018, it's basically 720 bucks. And then again, the next one on the 12th, that one is about 875 bucks. And that means after the cleaning fee, about 575 bucks for 2 nights. And then finally on the Christmas, we have a stay for 13, about almost 1335. So 1,035 after the cleaning fee for 2 nights. And then one more on New Year's Eve. And that one is only yielding, it's for 1 night and it's $490. And that does not include the cleaning fee. So it's really only 190 bucks. So still trying to figure this out, trying to figure out the market, trying to figure out the pricing. And again, this is the busy season. So if this is all we're yielding in the busy season, this is not going to prove to be very lucrative as a short-term rental. Now, again, we were looking at moving into it. I do have another booking in March, the first weekend of March, again, just another 2-night booking. I have adjusted the prices on this to allow for anyone that wants to book for a long term. If they wanted to stay for long term, I think it was going to break down to about 7,500 bucks a month or something like that. But yeah, so that's where we're at. We're carrying some of the costs, but it's not covering everything. And that's okay. It is what it is. I mean, we're learning, and this is a new property. It's a new market. This is Florida. This is more of a vacation rental market, if you will, but it's not really, it's just not enough to really support what we were trying to do here. And unless I want to significantly lower the prices, try and maybe shoot for a $6,500 a month income, the problem that we run into really is the platform fees. The platform fees are huge when you're dealing with these numbers. And so those getting passed on to the customers is tough. When you got somebody who's looking for a long-term stay for their company, for example, they were paying like for the month, their cost was like somewhere around $9,500 or $9,600. And so I only saw like 5,700 of that. So they're, all my profits basically going to the platforms. So that's a large chunk of change. That's why I was trying to get them on a 1-year lease for somewhere around $8,000, because that would be a lot more profit for me and they'd save some money too, but we just couldn't get there. So yeah, so now at this point, we ended up listing it for sale because we were thinking, you know what, this isn't super lucrative, or it's not lucrative at all. And for our intent and purposes, which was to avoid paying taxes this year, we wanted to give it a shot and see if this would make sense. This is the busiest time of the year. This would be the time that it makes the most sense. So if we could make it work now, then that would give us hope going into the first quarter of 26. But since we've obviously proven that it's not lucrative, then we're fine to go ahead and just write off our losses here. But that said, we did list it for sale. I actually have a coworker that is really interested in it, but also we had, my wife really loves the property. And like I said, we initially did buy it for us. We wanted to buy it for us, but the financing didn't work out. And so we ended up just pivoting and turning it into a BRRRR. Ultimately, the idea is to sell it, take the profits, and then buy another property, putting 25% down to offset the taxable income. And we would be selling this in 26 because that would give us all of 26 to basically avoid having to pay those taxes versus selling it now at the end of the year and then getting stuck with a bill. So that's the strategy behind that. However, yesterday, again, thank you guys for supporting me. I saw the 100 downloads. I was like, okay, let me get down there and go ahead and take care of this video and make it. I saw this, we listed it for sale. It's only been on the market for a couple of weeks, and it is the holiday season, and we have it listed pretty high. But I just prayed real quick, and I said, God, if you want us to keep this, I'm going to pray really specifically. Bring me 3 bookings by the end of the day, or just really soon. It's kind of how I was just like leaving it open a little bit. I'm like, just bring me 3 bookings, bring me 3 reservations, and I will we'll keep it. That'll be the sign. That's how I'll know. And for you guys, whether you pray or don't pray, whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, this is how I always pray with God. Not always. This is when I really need the answer to something, when I really am searching for an answer and I'm really being intentional about it. That's how I pray to God. And I pray extremely specifically so that I cannot chalk it up as coincidence or whatever. I wouldn't do that anyways, but I used to. And so wouldn't you know it, not less than 5 minutes after I prayed that, I got a reservation. I denied the reservation because they had cats, and we specifically say we don't do cats. This morning, they reached out to me again. They said, so I got another reservation. Same people. I had denied their first one, declined it. No cats. They came back this morning. They said, we'll leave the cats at home. So I declined them again. And I said, sorry, but I just don't trust you. The way our last conversation left off, I just didn't feel like they were trustworthy. They kind of got hot under the collar because Got to take my son to school. Anyways, they got hot under the collar because I denied them. So their true colors came out and I didn't like it. So I declined them and I said, no, I just don't trust you guys. I think you're going to bring cats anyways, whatever. That was like at 2 in the morning when they made that request. I declined them around 8 in the morning. And then they came back like 30 minutes later, 20 minutes later, third reservation request, third booking. I didn't say to God when I prayed that they have to be different reservations from 3 different people. This is crazy. I'm like, man. And see, here's the thing. Anytime I've prayed, this is how God has always spoken to me. He's always answered my prayers in this way. When I pray very specifically, he answers very specifically. And part of that I know is because otherwise I wouldn't believe it. And so they came back again, third time in 24 hours, less than 24 hours. They came back a third time with another reservation. They said, look, we're physicians. We're all professionals. We will take great care of your place. We won't abuse it. We won't bring the cats. We'll put them in, we'll board them, etc., etc. And I explained to him, I said, my daughter, my mother, all are very allergic to cats. I said, we just can't do it. And I just can't take that chance to have them in our home. And so I appreciate that they were very respectful about it. And they came back and they were very clear and they earned my trust. They won me over. And so I went ahead and accepted the reservation. So 3 bookings came in. That's my sign. I guess we're not selling the place. I don't know what else to tell you. It's crazy. It's wild. The funny thing is my wife got up this morning and she typically does. And she was just spending some time in prayer and she brought it up to God. She said, she went on a walk this morning and she was just talking to God and she said, hey, do you want us to keep that house? And she said immediately she heard yes. Now, granted, she's not fully objective, right? She wants that house. So she said, okay, you're going to have to convince my husband. And this is like at 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning when she was praying and going for a walk and stuff. So it was just funny because when I brought it to her at like 8:30, 9 o'clock this morning, and I said, hey, honey, we just got our 3rd booking reservation request. And then she told me. That's when she told me. She said, well, I did pray this and I did tell God that he needs to tell you. It's just incredible. I don't know. It's a roller coaster. We'll see how it goes. I do got to get going here, but I will say that's where we're at right now. That's the plan. Those are the numbers. You heard what it is. It is what it is. This is trial and error. Short-term rentals are what they are. This is not necessarily, again, like the best short-term rental market. If we really were looking for something like that, we would have bought on the island. But realistically, we bought this house intentionally to be ours. It's a great fix and flip. We could definitely, we're going to be well into the black if we were to sell this thing. But again, after this prayer, I'm not so sure that we're supposed to. And which totally goes against what I really want to do. I want to get out of debt completely. So that's another thing is that we are in the process of completing cash out refinances. I should have that done by the end of this week. As I mentioned in episode 16, we have a couple properties that we've been operating as short-term, medium-term rentals, long-term rentals. They're kind of a mix. They're duplexes out in St. Mary's. And we have approximately $330,000-ish, $350,000 of equity in them. I'm pulling out 75% loan to value. I was trying to get 80. I fell short on some of the qualifications. I think I needed like a 7-something credit score. I have a 7-something, but it wasn't high enough. And then I think because they were operating as short-term rentals, they wanted more history and I couldn't come up with that. So they didn't qualify, et cetera, et cetera. And that kind of turned into an issue too. And if I didn't have to run right now, I would go further into it. But suffice it to say that we are in the process of pulling out hopefully about $170,000, which is right on the mark of where I wanted to be when I talked about it a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. Just so you guys see, this is the real life pace of real estate when you're working a 9 to 5, when you're wearing multiple hats, when you have 5 people to feed in your family, when I'm still grinding every single day. I'm doing stuff for my business every single day. Yesterday, we had to replace linens and pillows at one of the apartments that were one of the contractors previously to the one that just checked out. They ruined the linens and they, I think, stole our good pillows and left their crappy pillows. We like to use my pillows in all of our properties because they're great quality pillows and we like that guy, Mike, I think his name is. He seems like a really stand-up guy and he gives a great product. They're really expensive, but never heard a complaint. Everybody seems to like them and they like our mattresses. We use, a Casper, I think it is. We buy them on Amazon. And anyways, all that's good quality products in all of our rentals, but because of that, sometimes they get stolen, and then when they get damaged, they're expensive to replace. So it is what it is, cost of doing business. But yeah, so we should have that refinance money here by the end of this week. That was part of the agreement that I did with this lender, as I told them that they have to have the money in our account by December 5th, so they need to get everything done. It's now been 3 weeks with them. We started with a different lender who was actually a family friend, and I have no idea what happened there during the government shutdown. They were helping us out. I asked them simply why their origination fees were 2%. I know that's industry standard, but for repeat clients and friends, I would definitely expect that you would hook somebody up, especially in mortgage origination. If you guys aren't familiar, that's why you get a billion phone calls when you apply for a mortgage, because it's highly competitive. You can have your pick of the litter when it comes to mortgage lenders. You can reach out. They're all competing for your business, quite literally competing. So I get a million phone calls every time I apply for a mortgage. Even when I apply with my friends, who I'm, at least I thought they're my friends, that I'm trying to specifically stick with and stay with, even when I only apply with them, I still get a million phone calls from everybody else because my credit gets pulled. So basically, finally, I answered one of the calls because once I figured out these guys wanted to charge me 2% in origination fees for each refi, I asked them, I said, why are you guys charging so much? And then they literally ghosted me, which was amazing to me because this is a family friend of years. I've been friends with this lender for years, and like we've talked about doing deals together. I know him. He helped me. He's also a real estate agent out in California. He helped me list and sell my property when we left. He's a good dude. I just can't believe that he turned like this. Now, granted, he might think that I turned on him, but the reality is I asked him a simple question. I just said, why are you guys charging me 2%? I'm like, people are offering me 0.75%, and you could at least give me the courtesy of maybe only charge me 1%. Like, I'm happy to still do the pricing with you, but you got to help me out here because people are literally competing for business. And anyway, so I got to get going, got to take my son to school, but yeah, that's where we're at. And I'll fill you guys in with how that goes. Basically, we were thinking about doing some taxing investing. Honestly, I do still have a lot of debt to pay off from the renovation that we did here with this BRRRR, because the money that we got back didn't pay all the debt off. What ended up happening is during that, in the last like couple of weeks, we had one of the bathroom drains backed up, and I guess the plumbers didn't replace that, and that wasn't included in their bid, which to me is crazy because I ended up spending, I don't know, $19,000 in plumbing with that company. So I thought that was included, evidently not. So there's another $24,000 or $3,000 I have to spend on that. So anyways, yeah, so it'll be interesting. We'll see what we do. I don't know. I'm definitely thinking another fix and flip is in the future here. A lot of foreclosures here in Jacksonville, in Florida. A lot of foreclosures just taking place in the country. So tons of investment opportunities. Anyways, got to get going, drop my son off at school. Talk to y'all later. And thanks again for listening.